My name is Una Jensen. I am 29 years old. At the backyard barbecue in our family home on the outskirts of Boise, Idaho, where the air hung heavy with the scent of grilled tri-tip and the hum of relatives' laughter. My older sister Veda rose from her lawn chair with that effortless command she'd always wielded, microphone in hand, from the portable speaker set up near the fire pit, and declared to the crowd of nearly 40 that Mom and Dad had officially signed over all 6 of our family's auto body shops to her alone. Una, hate to say it, but this is where your role ends. You've got your life up in Portland, right? Her voice carried that polished lilt like she was delivering good news to a boardroom, and the backyard erupted in whoops and backslaps, her fiancé Mace clapping loudest, while aunts fanned themselves with paper plates, nodding along as if this was the natural order of things. I didn't raise my voice or spill my iced tea. I just set my glass down on the picnic table, the condensation leaving a dark ring on the wood, and turned to Dad, who was mid-bite into a corn cob butter dripping onto his chin. Dad, steady now. Isn't there something you overlooked in all this handover talk? His chew-slowed eyes widening just a fraction, the kernel stuck halfway down. Veda's grin faltered, her free hand tightening on the mic stand, and in that suspended beat with the sizzle of burgers on the grill fading into white noise. Every face in the yard pivoted toward me, the summer breeze rustling the aspens like it knew the fragile piece was about to splinter wide open. Before I lay out exactly what Dad had buried under layers of family loyalty and Veda's charm offensive, and how that afternoon flipped our Boise roots into something unrecognizable, culminating in a holiday season that tested every boundary I'd drawn. Drop a comment and tell me if you've ever stood in a crowd cheering your own erasure, pretending it didn't carve you hollow. Hit like if a single overlooked detail ever turned your whole world from scripted fairy tale to raw reckoning. Because what unfolded next left half the yard, scrambling for excuses to leave early, and the other half whispering my name like a curse they'd never learned to spell right, with echoes that haunted the falling snows to come. I grew up in the shadow of Veda's spotlight in that sprawling ranch house on the edge of Boise, where the Boise River cut through town like a vein of blue forget-me-nots, and our family looked every bit the Idaho success saga from the outside. Dad's auto body shops dotting the valley from Eagle to Meridian, Mom's community garden club photos, in the local paper holiday cards with us all posed against the sawtooth backdrop, smiles wide enough to hide the fault lines. But indoors, the air always bent toward Veda, the eldest daughter who could charm a tow truck driver into free labor with a wink, and a story, her presence pulling conversations like a magnet to steel. From her toddler tantrums onward, she was the one adults orbited first to get the bigger bedroom when we remodeled after that hailstorm wrecked the roof first, to pilot Dad's old Ford pickup at 15 on those dusty back roads to the Caldwell yard, first to intern at the shop straight out of high school, while I tagged along sweeping floors and sorting rusted fenders that scratched my palms raw. Family dinners wrapped with toasts to her latest negotiation win, with a parts supplier, her laughter filling the dining room like exhaust fumes, thick and inescapable, while my report card sat folded on the sideboard unopened amid the clatter of forks on plates. When I begged for art classes in 7th grade to sketch the junkyard wrecks that fascinated me, those twisted hulks with their silent stories of crashes and comebacks, Mom sighed that the budget was stretched thin from Veda's cheerleading fees and the sequined uniforms that came with regional competitions. When I landed a partial scholarship to the University of Oregon for graphic design, my acceptance letter clutched like a talisman. Dad's response was a gruff, "Portland's a long haul from here. Suit yourself if you want to chase clouds instead of chrome." His eyes already drifting back to the shop manifest on the table. So at 18, I loaded my thrift store portfolio and a duffel into my hand-me-down Subaru, the engine coughing like it resented the goodbye, and headed west on I-84, the flatlands of the Snake River Plain giving way to evergreens that finally let me breathe without measuring every exhale against hers, the rearview mirror shrinking the ranch to a speck of regret. Portland handed me my first unpaid gig at a small ad agency in the Alphabet District, mocking up logos for local breweries with their hoppy names and ironic fonts. But I clawed up to junior designer within a year, learning the fine print of contracts over late night takeout, the quiet power in clauses that locked in equity or voided bad deals when someone got too greedy with the fine print, those hidden lines that could save or sink a fledgling venture. I visited home sparingly only when Grandma Celine summoned me to her bungalow in Nampa, where the air smelled of sagebrush and engine grease from the shop she'd co-founded with Grandpa back when women didn't sign their own loan papers, her hands still calloused from decades of spot welding. She was the outlier in our lineage, the widow who kept the books sharp after he passed in a freak lift collapse, her bifocals perched on a nose like a hawk's beak as she quizzed me on amortization schedules over weak chamomile tea that tasted of dust and determination. No backhanded, "Why can't you hustle like your sister?" From her, just a steady gaze and lines like, "You spot the weak welds before they snap, Una. That's worth more than a full shop floor." Her words landing like tools in a kit, practical and precise. Those trips were my anchor, her handing me a ledger from one of the shops to balance in the quiet of her kitchen, the tick of her wall clock marking time I could claim as mine, away from the roar of Veda's approvals. The rest of the family faded into holiday texts and obligatory calls, Dad only dialing if Veda needed a cosigner for another expansion loan that promised growth, but always seemed to line her pockets. First, Mom forwarding chain emails about family first, laced with passive digs at my urban drift. I stopped fighting the invisibility. It was easier to layer on hoodies against the Pacific chill and build a studio apartment in the Pearl District stacked with sketch pads. No one else touched my walls, a gallery of concepts that breathed free. By 26, I'd jumped to a mid-sized firm specializing in branding for automotive clients, my portfolio heavy with reworks for dealerships that had botched their mergers, dissecting how one overlooked rider could tank a whole acquisition. The thrill of spotting those flaws mirroring the satisfaction of a perfectly aligned chassis. The Jensen shops were the last thread tying me back, but even that frayed when Veda took the reins as operations lead. Her Instagram flooded with ribbon cuttings and client selfies in front of gleaming restorations, while I fielded Mom's vague updates about tight quarters this quarter. Her voice trailing off like she knew I wouldn't press. I didn't resent Veda, outright resentment implied investment, and I'd cashed out years ago trading it for the steady hum of my own engine. I just navigated it like fog on the Columbia Gorge eyes forward wipers on no point yelling at the mist that would lift on its own. Portland solidified my footing 2 years back when I closed my first solo contract redesigning the visual identity for a Seattle-based fleet management company. The payout a clean $75,000 enough to cover a down payment on a cozy A-frame in Selwood windows, framing the Willamette like a living canvas where barges glided slow under the bridges at dusk. I filled it with mid-century teak sideboards scavenged from estate sales, and a drafting table scarred from late nights under a single desk lamp plants, thriving under grow lights, because no one else forgot to water them. Their leaves, a green reminder of neglect turned nurture. The only pull eastward remained Grandma Celine, her frame shrinking like parchment in the Idaho wind that whipped through Nampa's empty lots. But her mind stayed edged like a torque wrench, unyielding and precise, even as her steps faltered on the bungalow's uneven porch. Our calls turned, pointed her voice rasping over questions about holding companies and about layering LLCs to shield assets from kin who love flash more than foundation. Her pauses heavy with the weight of unspoken thefts she'd tallied in silence. I laid it out plain no sugar because she never once wielded my know-how to burnish Veda's halo or prop up the family myth of seamless succession. Instead, She treated my insights like diagnostic tools, probing for cracks without judgment. She slipped away 11 months ago, lungs giving out in her sleep, after a winter cold lingered too long into spring, the kind that settled in her chest like rust in a frame, and I flew back for the memorial in Nampa, the red eye leaving me hollow-eyed at the VFW hall, where folding chairs scraped linoleum and Veda eulogized her as the heart of our empire, tears glistening under the fluorescence like stage lights on a practiced grief. The loss hollowed me quiet, a void that echoed in the empty passenger seat on the drive back north, but it lodged like a gear tooth, catching just right. Her final whisper on my last visit hand bony on mine, as we sat by her kitchen window overlooking the junked cars she'd never fully let go. Guard the frame, Una. Some bends don't straighten no matter the heat you apply. That was the woman I carried into the Jensen backyard 3 weeks ago, 9 years of coast fog sharpening my edges against the salt air, and one unyielding elder's blueprint etched deep into the lines of my palms ready to unfold when the welds finally gave. The pivot happened 4 years prior on a drizzly Thursday, when Grandma's text pinged my phone mid-mock-up in the agency bullpen, the rain sheeting the Pearl District's windows like a veil. Drive down this weekend. Eyes needed on the books. No fluff, just coordinates to her Nampa address pinned with a single thumbtack emoji. I crossed the border Saturday dawn, the high desert blooming under a rare sun that baked the asphalt, pulling into her gravel drive, where she waited on the stoop with a metal lockbox scarred from years in the shop attic, and a thermos of black coffee thick as tar steam curling like exhaust in the chill. She skipped the pleasantries, her usual, "How's the rain treating you?" Traded for a curt nod, cracking the box to slide over a stack of printouts that thudded, heavy profit-loss statements yellowed at the edges, vendor invoices stamped in red, payroll stubs for all 6 shops from Boise proper to Caldwell, each page a map of quiet erosion. The discrepancies screamed before the numbers did over the last 20 months. Close to $350,000 in revenue had siphoned off into ghost lines, consulting retainers, to shell firms registered in Veda's maiden name, prototype testing, with no prototypes in sight or inventory logs to back them, executive perks, funneled to her least Escalade payments and weekend getaways logged as team building retreats at lakeside cabins far from any shop floor. Signatures on the dodgy checks looped in Veda's flourish, that looping S she'd practiced in high school margins, her access granted fresh out of community college, when Dad handed her the manager title like a crown at her graduation barbecue, complete with a custom key fob engraved with her initials. Grandma's jaw set as I traced the trails on her scarred oak table, her finger jabbing a forged receipt for custom paint jobs that never materialized the supplier's contact. A burner number that rang to voicemail. Gave her the keys to teach stewardship? She muttered voice gravel from decades of shop dust. She learned siphoning instead, one drop at a time till the tank runs dry. I pressed why no showdown, why not drag it into the light with Dad's oversight, and she waved it off sharp. Her wedding band catching the light. Your folks would circle the wagons tight as a drum. She's young, ambitious, she'll grow into it, pay it forward someday. By growth spurt's end, the shops'd be scrap metal for her vanity projects. That's when she unearthed the second cash from the lockbox's false bottom drafts for an irrevocable trust, positioning her as grantor me as sole successor beneficiary for the full chain of 6 autobody operations, plus transfer agreements to shift controlling interests via stock assignments, all primed for execution with tabs flagging the signature lines. She broke it down methodical as a diagnostic scan on a totaled frame. The trust sidesteps probate entirely, keeps transfers off public dockets till her exit to avoid the vultures circling early. Stock transfers lock ownership irrevocable once filed with the Idaho Secretary of State, no takebacks, even if the family howled. Her accountant buddy, a retired CPA from Meridian, who'd audited the books pro bono since Grandpa's era, was queued for notarization come Monday. No family lawyers sniffing the ink or tipping Veda off through back channels. I balked at the why me, the weight of it pressing like a jackstand slipping, and she fixed me with that bayou stare she'd carried from Louisiana roots, undimmed by years in the dry high country. You see the rust under the polish, Una, the flaws that fester, if ignored. Veda'd flipped these shops into showrooms for her vanity plates. Customers be damned, or clients, I mean, nickel and dimed for shine over substance. Steady hands hold the line, keep the welds true. I floated Veda's fallout, the inevitable family fracture that would spiderweb from Nampa to Portland, but she sliced through with a chop of her hand. Fractures show where the weak metal was hiding all along. She stays blind till the weld's set permanent, that's the mercy in it. We poured through the weekend like mechanics under a hoist, her annotating clauses on asset schedules with a red pencil that snapped leads twice, drilling me on filing protocols and contingency riders, so no loophole could pry it loose later. Her voice steady as she mapped out the post-transfer audits I'd need to run quietly. Monday dawned crisp under a faultless blue sky, the notary rolling up in a sensible Prius at 8:15 sharp, his briefcase clicking open on the counter. We inked in her breakfast nook amid the scent of toast masking the finality, her pen stroke unwavering as she initialed the exhibits and pressed her thumb to the seal. Post-seal, she uncorked a splash of Grandpa's homemade chokecherry cordial from a dusty shelf, day-drinking be damned in the face of forever, and tapped my glass with a clink, like locking pliers. Sealed and shipped now. Lips zipped till they try to repaint your canvas over what's already yours. I swore it on the oil-stained photo of her and Grandpa welding their first fender in a dirt-floored barn, the image yellowed but unbreakable, and we torched the duplicates in her backyard pit, that evening embers spitting against the twilight like punctuation on a chapter closed the smoke-carrying promises into the gathering dark. For the ensuing 3 years, the surface gleamed unchanged under Veda's gloss. She strutted quarterly reports at family suppers in the ranch's harvest room, touting record turnarounds and streamlined efficiencies, while pocketing the skim through those same ghost accounts her charts projected on the wall like victory banners. Mom and Dad swelled with pride at her visionary pivots, oblivious to the state filings now listing Jensen Auto Group subsidiaries under my trustee hold, tucked away in nondescript public records no one bothered to pull. I trekked down quarterly from Portland, slipping into the shops under Grandma's old consultant guise with a forged badge from her era, auditing actuals against her hidden ledgers stashed in my Selwood safe, routing legit repairs through trusted crews who'd known me since I was knee-high to a creeper, while Veda chased influencer collabs for custom wraps that inflated costs without adding value. No one clocked the ownership shift because no one cross-checked beyond her glossies or the framed press clippings she hung in the break rooms. Even the longtime welders nodded at my spot checks without a second glance, loyal to the routine more than the roster. Grandma's decline accelerated post-transfer, more afternoons dozing in her recliner with a lap quilt over her knees, then tallying tallies at the kitchen table, her hands trembling on the armrests, but her questions still laser-sharp. But each visit she'd crook a finger from the shadows. Hours alone. My nod was ritual, a vow renewed in the hush between her labored breaths and the distant train whistle from the Union Pacific line. Her grip last visit crushed like vice jaws on a stubborn bolt ring, biting skin through my sleeve. Steel outlasts shine, girl. Forge accordingly and don't let the holidays soften the hammer. 6 months post-funeral, as the chokecherries ripened again in Nampa's wild lots. Mom's call caught me mid-commute on the Burnside Bridge, traffic snarling like always. Stick around an extra day, Una. Shops need sorting before the will's dust settles. Bon. The lilt spelled ambush the clan converging pre-will probate to carve the pie with knives sharpened on tradition, and I nearly demurred, picturing the conference table laden with agendas already slanted. But the edge in her pause hooked me a subtle plea beneath the polish, so I lingered in a Nampa motel with thin walls and the hum of semis on I-84. Sunday noon, the conference room at the flagship Boise shop buzzed like a war council under fluorescent strips. Dad at the head sleeves hitched over a yellow legal pad scribbled with bullet points. Veda sprawled adjacent legs crossed in her power heels, already queen of the torque, with a tablet propped like a scepter. Mom circulating thermoses of Joe, nobody sipped the steam curling unused. A manila envelope squatted central on the scarred oak edges, crisp as fresh receipts. Dad nudged the top form my way with a forced casualness. Routine release, kiddo. Keeps the chain intact. No loose ends for you up north, where the real estate's eating your time. I scanned the header waiver of successor interest business entities, 6 shop addresses chained below in block type. My pulse, steady as a idle engine. Hard even, I'd fielded uglier curveballs and client pitches gone south. Mom chimed pre-protest, her apron still dusted from morning prep. Just formality, honey. Veda's embedded here day-ins and all. Smooths the lineage for the grandkids someday. Veda twirled a wrench keychain pilfered from Dad's desk, smirking like she'd scripted the close. No drama, Una. Sign off, skip the suits and their billable hours. I eased it back a hair toward the center, the paper whispering against the wood. Pass. The room chilled instant like a garage door slamming in January, Dad's brow furrowing deep as a fender crease. Mom's pour halting midstream with Joe sloshing the rim. Dad rallied with a throat clear. Don't stonewall us here. This clarifies, not confiscate, streamlines for the future. I locked eyes over the pad. Won't ink away Grandma's blueprint for me, the one she drew when the rust started showing? Quiet crashed heavy, Veda's twirl ceasing mid-spin, the keychain clinking final. Mom pivoted, sentimental eyes welling on cue. Celine craved unity above all. Bickering'd gut her worse than any audit. Unblinking voice level. She's past viewing any of it. And this ain't brawl, it's boundary plain as a shop line. Dad leaned in, tone dipping to that old curfew growl from my teen drifts. Ease up, Una. Veda's sunk sweat here, years of it, late nights, client schmoozes. I near chuckled, the irony bitter as burnt rubber, sweat into her offshore slush funds, perhaps the ones that don't show on the family balance. Veda cracked, then facade slipping. Your co-side comfy. Why claw back now, stir the pot? Ain't yours to parcel out like leftovers. I countered, folding arms. Mom teared, strategic handkerchief dabbing. Post-loss harmony, please, for all our sakes. I rose, slow chair scraping. Regret the ache this causes, but no waiver today or tomorrow. Dad's palm smacked the laminate hard tools rattling in the drawer below. Absurd this. Like we're robbing you blind when you've barely turned a wrench. Keys in hand from my pocket, cool against skin. Like I know my bays from yours already have for years. Veda surged up, flush rising like overheating coolant. Petty as ever, playing the overlooked card. Threshold pause, door half open. Petty's papering over, intent for convenience, ignoring the frame that holds it all. Mom's plea trailed soft. Una, stay, talk it through. No glance back, the thud of the door sealing it. Veda's mutter on victim card again filtered through the panel. Dad's hush, sharp. Mom's real sob swelling raw as an exposed wire. I cranked the Subaru AC high against the July scorch, seeping through the vents, the 9-hour haul to Portland, a vacuum for replay headlights, eventually piercing the dusk over the Cascades. They spun it as my sulk in the weeks after group chains buzzing on, mending fences with heart emojis and Bible quotes. Dad's voicemails escalating from coaxing olive branches to commands laced with disappointment. Veda's lone ping terse as a text invoice. Mature up, sis. Silence my reply, a wall I'd built brick by digital brick. I archived fresh stock certificates instead, safe in a lockbox bolted to my A-frame floor biting, while they scripted me the grudge mule in their narrative, unaware the mule had long since claimed the cart. 3 weeks back, as the aspens yellowed early along the Boise foothills, the gilt-edged invite hit my Selwood mailbox amid seed catalogs and agency mailers embossed cardstock heavy as judgment. Jensen Legacy Handover Gala, in looping script that mimicked Mom's hand inner note. Her looping cursive, honor Celine's vision toast tomorrow's torque. Saturday 4 o'clock. Yearn for you here. Decoded in an instant, Veda's crown fitting a post-waiver dodge wrapped in nostalgia, the family doubling down on the myth. The chat lit up like a fault light that afternoon. Veda's shot glassing the Meridian shop sign at golden hour caption, revving the Jensen dynasty engines and empires. Her fiancé Mace hard-eyeing in comments. King of the Keys soon, babe. Uncles thumbs-upping with fire emojis. A cousin from Twin Falls quipping, Una crashing this round, or sitting it out again. Unanswered, but I block the weekend on my calendar with a single red slash, packing my wheeled briefcase, the one for high-stakes client pitches, leather scuffed from boardroom drags with tabbed binders of notarized trusts, stock transfers stamped and sealed, a thumb drive of digitized audits, cross-referenced to Veda's discrepancies. Zipped pre-dawn Friday under the A-frame's slanted eaves. I nosed west on I-84, reversed the 9-hour trek, muscle memory, now mileposts ticking like a countdown on the dash clock, coffee thermos sweating in the cup holder. Tension thickened with the terrain shift billboards for Boise State Broncos yielding to foothills scrub dotted with grazing deer, each rest stop ping unheeded on my silenced phone. 27 buzzies tallying Veda's big leap with confetti gifts, Dad's solo, bury the hatchet time, see you soon, unread amid the stack. Crossing the Payette River Bridge as sun dipped behind the Oahe's painting, the water molten my gut, ice to that pre-pitch poise, not jitters fluttering like loose wiring, just primed circuits, clean. I nosed into the family drive Saturday 2:30, the cul-de-sac jammed end-to-end, cousin caravans from Twin Falls hauling coolers, Uncle Harlan from Pocatello in his lifted Tacoma. Veda's ops advisor, a slick Meridian suit named Trent, who'd greenlit her innovations, like those phantom retreats, shaking hands like he'd scripted the entire script down to the applause cues. White canopy strung taut across the yard against the afternoon glare, caterers hauling charcuterie boards, heavy with local salumi, and craft IPAs chilling in ice troughs, a tiki bar under the lone spruce strung with Edison bulbs. This wasn't handover. It was investiture, a coronation under the wide Idaho sky. Mom clocked me from the porch, first heels sinking into the mulch border she tended religiously, arms wide in her linen shift. You came, queries on you nonstop, everyone's asking. Hug vise tight, lavender assaulting nostrils sharp as flux. Dad trailed close, shoulder thump, hearty fake with calloused palm. Full roster now feels right. His gaze snagging on my case like a hook in fabric. Veda materialized patio side moments later, mace adherent at her elbow, flutes foaming pale under the sun. Prodigal returns to the fold or just the feast. Mace's guffaw boomed artificial. Veda's aside sparked his louder, a private joke that excluded by design. Cousins waved tepid from the lawn games. Most feigned fetch for fresh plates, avoiding the undercurrent. Indoors reeked of lemon polish and presumption. When I stepped through, Veda's framed winds lined the mantel in chronological glory, shop reopenings, with giant scissors vendor deals sealed over steak at the Basque block. A projected org chart beaming on the flat screen mounted above the hearth, her node central and pulsing blue. Brochures stacked neat on the sideboard. Jensen auto renewed Veda's velocity, glossy with speed lines and taglines promising precision in every pivot. I trundled the case to the den threshold, anchoring it visible amid the shuffle, Mom's beam twitching at the corner like a shorted wire, Dad throat clearing into his fist, Veda arching a brow, but mute, her curiosity sharpening. Arrivals swelled through the French doors, the family solicitor Ms. Harlan no relation, her cards crisp as new bills glad-handing accolades like bold move Veda bold. A new face amid the familiar, my old Boise High lab partner Lena, who drifted into Veda's orbit as event coordinator, after a divorce fluttering agendas and name tags with forced cheer her laugh, too bright. Veda's advisor Trent hovered near the bar toasting synergies ahead to anyone who'd listen, his cufflinks glinting like false promises. I snagged a seltzer from the tray, lime wedge bobbing clocking heads in a quick sweep, 38 souls milling ample attesters for the unspool to come their chatter, a buffer against the storm brewing. Veda's ascent hit when the yard maxed out under the canopy, flute aloft in one hand, amp cranked from the portable rig. Gratitude to Mom Dad for vesting me, Grandma Celine's chassis, all 6 shops mine as of noon today. Legacy locked, legacy launched into overdrive. Clinks cascaded like dominoes. To Veda, chorused from the ants. Applause thundered kin, surging to mob her with hugs and backslaps that jostled the tiki setup. I timed the swell, precise, wheeling forward over the grass, with casters whispering halt beside the fire pit, its embers banked low. Cheers choked mid-note. Stares locked, frozen, the amp's hum the only underscore. Latches popped with twin snaps. Lid yawned on ordered files, tabs glowing in the dappled light. Dad rasped, first voice gravel. Una, what's the play here? Some pitch from Portland. No haste in my pull. I withdrew the lead stock transfer seal, glinting sunset orange, arraying it atop the low table. Then 5 more, in sequence each, Celine's scrawl, bold and unhesitant, state stamps embossed like badges of finality. The trust capped the stack successor clause, neon tabbed in yellow for emphasis. Then to Dad tone, even as a level, overlooked this gear in the works. Huh, the one that shifts the whole drive. Pallor hit him swift as a coolant, flush corn forgotten on his plate. Mom's flute clattered against the lattice fence stem, bending. Veda gaped, amp feedback whining shrill till someone killed the power. Ms. Harlan solicitor edged in through the press specs, adjusting with trembling fingers, lifting the trust to vet signatures under the fading light, flipping deliberate to asset annexes, matching transfers, line for line. Pace quickened in her cross-check. Up slow, voice flat. Filed proper with the secretary, 4 years sound. Una holds controlling interest outright. No distribution left to hand over, it's hers by grant. Breaths held collective like the river post dam release, the air thick. Veda snatched at the top sheet. Bogus all of it. Grandma addled by then. Dementia. Whispers, pain meds, clouding judgment. Harlan withheld firm documents, shielded. I countersigned parallels for Celine, myself cross-checked the day of. Script pure as her old ledgers. Recorder verified, no contest. Ironclad under Idaho code. I voiced, even stepping into the circle. She clocked the leaks crystal clear, every siphon. Funneled it to who cherishes clients over capers, keeps the bays humming honest. Dad slumped into his folding chair, winded as a flat tire. She hid this from us all along. Why, no, I said, meeting his sag. Discreet for a reason. Veda's twist, sharpened face contorting. You stewed silent the whole time. Let us blueprint the future on sand. Let you blue sky what wasn't blue to give from the start. I parried, unflinching. Grandma cued the reveal for the exact moment claim jumpers showed up. Today fit the bill perfect. Harlan thudded the binder shut, decisive. Legals locked tight. Shops are Una's full stop. Aunts fidgeted in their seats, fans forgotten. Cousins gawked open-mouthed. Uncle Harlan's IPA soured, untouched on the rail foam flat. Mom whispered hoarse, to your own blood like this. Eyes met hers steady. Blood's hers to direct. I'm just executor of the will, she wrote clear. Veda's flute smashed deliberate on the paver path, foam arcing wild across shoes and hems. She froze, a beat, eyes wild, then bolted with purse snatch frantic weaving through kin, frozen in clusters, slamming the slider door to the kitchen with a bang that rattled the canopy poles. None pursued the yard, gaping at the void. Veda's bellow pierced from inside. Fraud through and through, pills muddled her last months. She didn't know up from down. Harlan reclaimed the pages, calm, intoning the key clause from memory. Section 3, Subsection B, post grantor decease full equity in all listed entities, passes immediate to successor, una Jensen, probate free and irrevocable. Each word a nail driven home. Veda's roar from the house ebbed to a wheeze muffled by walls. From the deck shadows where she'd hung back nursing a water xanthe, my middle sister, the wallflower who'd ghosted family galleries for years after her own quiet split from a Boise accountant, stepped into the light unbidden, truths hers every line. Swivels snapped toward her, shock rippling. I chauffeured Grandma to the filing office in Meridian that week, swore the same seal of silence as Una watched her sign steady as ever. Vows like that trump varnish every time. Veda whirled from the slider threshold. You complicit in this ambush, too. Xanthe held her ground voice low but clear. Some oaths outrank optics or keeping the peace at any cost. Mom sagged against the rail, then face veiled in hands quakes, racking her frame like aftershocks. Dad aged a decade in the chair knees, buckling slow to the turf as he slid down, arm questing blind. Una lass, we were clueless here, blindsided. Rework it somehow. Spare Veda the skid out from under her. His crack broke open. Salt tracked furrows in the dust on his cheeks. Mom clawed air, desperate. Best for the brood we figured all along. Veda rooted deep here. You're soaring solo up there, untethered. I evaded the grasp, gentle stepping back. Her call to make, not ours, to remix on a whim. Veda lunged from the patio, then momentum unchecked. Xanthe interposed, swift palm flat to her shoulder. Ease off now. Veda heaved, chest rising, furious but impotent against the line drawn. Aunts froze, mid-motion cells half out-pocketed. Trent the advisor paled to ash, edging toward the trellis fence. His consults now suspect fodder for the audits I'd flag come Monday. Caterers paused, platters mid-haul in the doorway adrift in the standoff. Dad knelt persistent on the grass, voice threadbare. Pawn the Silverado if need be. Bridge loans from the credit union. Rectify this mess before it rusts us all. Mom wailed deck ward into her sleeve. Mercy Una, no grudge to carry into the years. I surveyed the tableau, slow parents pleading raw Veda, seething coiled Xanthe sentinel at my flank. First true ally in a lifetime of sidelines. No grudge held, I said, voice carrying clear. Just ceased patching for blind spots that never saw me coming. Case snapped shut with final latches. Handle rose, telescoping. Harlan coughed into the hush. Notices draft first thing Monday, vendors banks all rerouted. Mere admin from here. Controls Una's undisputed. Veda keened low from the steps, a sound guttural. Mom muffled deeper into her shawl. Dad grass stared, unseeing. Keys pocketed firm, I turned for the drive, the gravel crunching underfoot like brittle resolve. 4 months on, as the leaves turned and the first frosts etched the foothills, the gears ground new grooves, irrevocable and unrelenting. Veda's name scrubbed methodically from every vendor portal, login, payroll run authorization, and lease, holdover clause. The 6 shops rebranded subtle under Jensen Auto, with my distant helm from Portland quarterly reports. Now routing direct to my inbox with clean margins. Clients trickled formal notices of ownership flux via certified mail. Most shrugged it off over the phone when I followed up personally. Bills unchanged, quarter-over-quarter estimates prompt, without the fluff, no more. Premium upgrades, inflating tabs on air filters or phantom alignments that Veda's crew had padded for kickbacks. The state audit pinged fortnight post-bash, triggered by an anonymous tip I'd filed through a Meridian contact. Veda's perks trail laid bare $350,000 rerouted to personal ventures like that lakeside cabin deed in her name, and offshore-linked consulting LLCs, flagged outright as misappropriation under business code. Collections kicked in swift liens clamping her Escalade title and that Meridian condo down payment she'd leveraged as investment collateral, the bank freezing accounts pending restitution. She sued for reversal in Ada County Court Council, crumbling under subpoenaed ledgers I'd preserved from Grandma's cash. Judgment hit hard: $180,000 in restitution plus treble penalties for fraud installment chained to a 10-year drag that ate half her freelance gigs. Mom and Dad listed the ranch by Labor Day weekend. The for sale sign, stark against the aspens, the Silverado auctioned first at a dealer lot in Nampa for a fraction of Blue Book, then Dad's tool collection piecemeal on Facebook Marketplace. Mom's quilt guild stash liquidated at a pop-up in the old VFW hall. They decamped reluctant to a Garden City duplex overlooking strip malls and sodium lights. Not the foothills vista they'd framed family photos against. Dad shuddered early on doctor's nod after hypertension spikes from the scramble landed him in St. Luke's ER twice. Mom clerking double shifts at a Nampa feed store for staples her garden club chats turning to budget recipes. Reunions lapsed into radio silence. No one craved grill smoke or forced toasts anymore, the backyard canopy moldering in the shed. Mace mailed the ring back FedEx 2 weeks later, parcel bare of note or ribbon, just the velvet box thudding into my Portland PO like punctuation on their collapse. Veda bunked a Kuna efficiency apartment with peeling vinyl and a hot plate, hawking used parts online through a dusty eBay store, her LinkedIn dormant since the headlines hit the Idaho Statesman business section. She orbits the Eagle Shop some dusks, still idling curbside in a borrowed Civic, till my oversight plaque glints under the security lights, then peels into the dark with tires squealing faint. Xanthi pings bi-weekly now clipped lifelines like, holding steady, con? With no weight behind, just check-ins that feel like lifelines tossed casual, the sole thread I tug when the quiet presses. She relays the clan chats in snippets, painting me sepia-toned like I'd phased out with Celine's last breath whispers of, Una's cut us loose for good. Fine by me, I text back terse, the words, a shield. Portland holds firm through the Turnshop royalties eclipse my A-frame note threefold monthly, steady as the Willamettes flow. I onboarded a Boise firm of ex-mechanics last quarter, women-led out of a Meridian startup space, callbacks under the hour, even on holidays vacancies, nil across the bays, reviews spiking on Google with mentions of honest quotes, no upsell BS, ledgers pristine and audited twice yearly. Snagged 3 indie garages last fall in a bundle deal, boutique flips in Bend and Spokane with clean slates mine from Blueprint, each adding threads to a web I weave solo. No kin probes direct in the months since zilch mail beyond junk. No drive-by drops at the shops. No emergency dials piercing the block. Mom's final plea came autumn-voiced in a tear-choked voicemail that autoplayed on my drive home from a client meet. Thanksgiving, please, Una. The table's too empty without you and Veda's. Well, come see. Erased mid-sentence number barred same swipe the delete a door bolting shut. But the holidays loomed then, December creeping with its freight of lights and expectations, and the attempts didn't cease. If anything, they escalated, probing the cracks I'd sealed, turning the season's glow into something sharper, more insistent. 2 weeks before Thanksgiving, a parcel arrived at my agency desk unmarked, but postmarked Nampa, heavy with the heft of forced festivity inside a hand-knitted scarf in Jensen blues, from Mom's guild wrapped around a shop ledger reprint she'd thought you'd want dog-eared at the pages where Veda's old signatures lingered like ghosts, a note tucked in her looping script. Memories for the mantle. Come home frost on the river's magic this year. I donated the scarf to a Pearl District shelter drive that afternoon. The wool soft but tainted and shredded the ledger pages into the A-frame's recycling bin. The whir of the machine, a small exorcism. Dad followed a week later with a certified letter from his old attorney, not Harlan, but a grizzled probate guy from Eagle outlining a proposed settlement, $50,000 cash from their dwindling savings wired immediate in exchange for mutual release of claims and a family truce over Turkey. The envelope included a photo reprint from last Christmas, all of us posed by the ranch tree with tinsel-draped tools, Veda front and center with a bow on a new compressor. I forwarded it unread to my own counsel in Portland, a no-nonsense estate planner who'd handled my post-trust filings. Her reply swift, "Counter with silence, it's leverage if they push." But the push came harder as snow dusted the Cascades, Veda herself emailing from a throwaway address. Veda gens Yutk Tempai Proton. Not begging, but bartering. One dinner neutral ground. Mace left shops gutted me, hear me out on buying back a bay or two. For old times before the rust sets permanent. Attached was a screenshot of her Kuna lease, red stamps glaring, and a blurry selfie from the Caldwell shop lot, her standing amid chain-link eyes hollowed by the sodium glow. I archived it without reply, the cursor hovering delete a beat too long, memories flickering of shared forts in the junkyard as kids, before the favoritism forged her crown and my shadow. Xanthi called then-voice Tinny over the line from her Pocatello apartment. They're unraveling Una mom's baking nonstop, dad's pacing ruts in the duplex carpet. Says Christmas without you is just another audit. Don't ghost me too. Her words landed soft, the first crack in my resolve, but I held. Boundaries aren't seasonal, Xanthi. Tell them the frame's mine now, holidays included. She sighed assent, but the line hummed with unspoken pleas. Christmas Eve dawned gray in Portland rain, sheeting the A-frame roof like tears held back, and the final salvo arrived via courier at noon, a poinsettia in a foil pot delivery tag from a Nampa florist card in Mom's hand. Lights on the river for you, doors open always. No return address, but the implication heavy as lead. I set it on the balcony rail that evening, city haze below, twinkling premature, and let the downpour claim it by midnight, red petals bleeding into gutters. Balcony evenings stretch longer now, city haze below a mosaic of lights that mock the old ranch glow, and I recall the teen sketching fenders by flashlight while Veda scored chrome budgets and Dad's nods. She grasped early how volume douses noise till proof revs louder, unignorable. Kinship vows nil without ledger backing. Mine kept when stakes spiked highest even under holiday strings. The lockbox endures shelf-high in my closet amid the teak transfers trust stamps pristine as fresh welds. Rarely rifled. Unnecessary now. Shops hum through the winter slowdown. Clients loyal with holiday cards thanking the steady hand. Line stays quiet from old orbits, the blocks apiece, hard won. Celine nailed it clean, steel outlasts shine every torque and turn. And in the quiet after the poinsettia wilted, I forged my own Yule log in the A-frame hearth solo flames, crackling truths no family feast could touch. If you've ever bartered birthright for borrowed peace only to reclaim it, forged harder amid the holly and heartache sound off in comments. What's your line in the rust when the carols turn to please? Sometimes the fiercest weld isn't mending the old. It's letting the frame cool alone under new stars.